Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jamie.
And I'm Mark.
Hey.
Hi.
Thanks for tuning in, and we are going to be talking about AEW mostly this podcast.
Dynamite and Rampage for, let's see, it's going to be 12/14 and 12/16 if we're really getting technical with the dates.
Yep, and perhaps a little bit of the ROH pay-per-view that just happened as well.
Definitely, and if not, it's at least an honorable mention. I think almost every match on that card was superb.
Absolutely. Even if you haven't watched it, go back. It's worth the, I think it's $40 on Bleacher Report.
$40. It's not quite a full pay-per-view.
If you're in the United States.
AEW, yeah, it's a banger from beginning to end. Well, we still haven't even watched the pre-show yet, and I heard the pre-show was really good as well.
Oh, yeah. It heard it was great. So
almost every single title changed. I won't drop super spoilers, but only one title didn't change. But if you've watched Dynamite or Rampage in the past week or so, you've already figured out that somebody didn't drop their title.
Exactly.
But speaking of ROH and former champions, our first match of the night we're going to talk about is Action Andretti taking on Chris Jericho.
And when we talk about this first, it's not because it's of the least importance of the week.
Not at all.
I had one of these moments where, we write a lot of notes while we're watching these live broadcasts of AEW, WWE, and we're sitting there, we write our notes, and when this match happened it was Dynamite, correct?
It was Dynamite, yes.
This match happened on Dynamite. I was like, this is going to be one of those real quick matches to just establish Chris Jericho after he's lost his belt.
Standard WrestleNomics is, you got a big star go against somebody that's not very well known. You just think it's going to be a squash match, especially after a pay-per-view loss.
And he even said before the match happened that he was fighting a jobber.
Oh, he made it a very big point to point out how big or how under this man is compared to him.
Of course. Now, if you don't watch Dark or Dark Elevation, you might not know who Action Andretti is. He's definitely an indie guy. He's only been around for a couple of years.
I think he's had 2 matches on Dark, or is it just one?
I think he's had one on Dark Elevation. So this was his third match, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Let's talk about the match. The match itself,
amazing.
They said he was a jobber, so you weren't expecting much. The crowd really were the MVPs in this match, and I do want to take a moment to talk about how good the crowd was in participating and adding energy to this match.
Which, honest to God, real quick as a side note, that's always something I've noticed with wrestling. If you could have the best wrestling show in the world, the performers could be great, the action could be great, but if you don't have a crowd that understands the concept of what's going on or doesn't appreciate the type of match,
magnitude,
they can drain a match worse than a bad botch or a terrible spot. And this crowd did not it was just as good as the ROH crowd.
Oh yes, they did not disappoint whatsoever.
I'll let you continue. I'm sorry, I'm all over interrupting.
No, you're fine. So this match happened. At one point, the crowd was actually screaming, "Let's go, Jobber," which was fantastic. I do want to take a moment to, and we talked about this on our Twitter. If you don't follow us on Twitter, we're at CAW Wrestling Pod. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the week, and I think one of the great things, if you don't notice it, go back and watch this match. Chris Jericho is so phenomenal at putting other people over.
Oh yeah.
He's had a 30-year-long career. He's done a lot of things with his career. He's been in a lot of different companies, done a lot of things. This is finally his time where he has realized that there's an importance to how big of a star that he is in the situation that he's in. He has the opportunity to teach these people, and this guy's got to be in his 20s. If I'm not mistaken.
Young. He looks young. He's just as young as Darius and
Dante. Absolutely, super young.
Top flight in reference.
And again, he's been doing this for 3 years. So Chris Jericho
which is
took
phenomenal.
This holy cow!
His look, his figure, he is stacked, built. Yep. If he's under the age of 25 and looks like that, he is going to have the figure of Drew McIntyre by the time he's 30.
Oh,
and he's
absolutely, Austin Aries.
Oh,
like that progression you can definitely see.
Austin Aries wishes on Austin Theory.
Austin Theory.
I was going to say Austin Theory wishes he looked that good as young as this kid is.
Oh, for sure. But his moveset was absolutely great, and he was a lot faster than you would have expected from somebody like him, I guess. I wasn't expecting him to hit the moves as quickly and as efficiently as he did.
He definitely had that flippy flopper indie wrestling style that everybody's grown to love in the past 10, 15 years.
Of course.
But he, much like a Brian Cage, big dude, moves quick, very agile, and very quick, clean, and everything was just precise.
But he's not a big dude. He's actually a pretty small dude.
No, I'm just saying, like the athleticism didn't match the body that he had. He looked like somebody he looked like he's just in the gym. I mean, he's rippled abs.
Yeah.
Stacked arms.
Sure. Like you said, he was very much like a top flight kind of guy.
But he's not built like a top flight guy. He's built like a smaller Brian Cage.
Mm-hmm.
But he moves like top flight. And and that's saying something with Brian Cage, because Brian Cage is a very athletic guy for as big as he is.
Sure.
This guy's 10 times as athletic as what Brian Cage is.
Oh, absolutely. It was incredible. So, I mean, he did a great job putting his moves on. Chris Jericho did a phenomenal job of putting his moves on. But going back and watching it and realizing the magnitude of, again, Chris Jericho's position in this match, he goes and he puts this dude over, and he's like, come on, action. Come on, action.
Made sure
the people are yelling for you. So
made sure that everybody would get into it.
And yelling for action.
That kind
every
of reverse
time.
Psychology on the crowd. Like,
yes.
I'm going to say this.
Marshall's great at that.
Oh, yeah. But this is what Jericho's good at. And I even said, we watched, and we'll talk about QT Marshall later. I even talked about QT Marshall being like a young Chris Jericho where he's at the point that he doesn't need to wrestle. I mean, I'm sure he has the capability of being in the main event picture, but he's to the point where he doesn't have to do that. He makes his money by creating opportunities for other wrestlers, for a company as a whole.
Right.
And is able to give what he's learned. And that's what he sells. That's what he offers to the wrestling community.
Exactly.
And
it's the next generation.
And that's what Jericho's doing with this guy, is he's putting him over. This is literally the definition of old stock wrestling.
100.
Putting over new stock.
Absolutely.
And I guarantee, and I was one of them, 90% of that crowd did not know who Action Andretti was.
No,
but
they didn't.
100% of that crowd, when they left, we were like, yo, you remember that guy that was in the blue, yellow, and the blue, green, and white that was doing all them flips? What was his name? It was like Action something?
Exactly.
Like,
they're going to remember something about it.
You've got it in their head. You've got that branding stuck in their head.
Yep.
It's so good. And his performance,
it
matched like how, oh God, it was just so good.
Somebody on Twitter said, if I had never seen AEW before and I had watched this match, I would have thought that this was one of the top guys
100%.
in AEW. The way the crowd was cheering for him. Well, every time he pinned Jericho, the crowd was 1, 2, oh.
And then when
so good.
When the end of the match happened, and of course we're all thinking, okay, he's the first time on AEW TV. This is Chris Jericho.
Yep.
He's off a loss from a title match.
He hits a standing shooting star press. Like, it wasn't anything crazy off the wall. It wasn't the Panama sunrise or
it wasn't,
anything like you said, flippy floppy crazy. It was a standing
shooting star press, and got the 1, 2, 3 on Jericho, and the whole crowd.
He got it. It was his Dynamite debut,
and it was one of those things where I knew it felt like the crowd was like, okay, 1, okay, 2, okay, and then it hit 3, and the entire crowd. It was like it was like the hometown team won the World Series, brought home the Super Bowl ring, brought home the pennant, brought home the Stanley Cup. Like, the crowd went apeshit. I don't know where this guy's from. I don't know if he's from Texas. I don't know if he was like hometown. We should have looked that up beforehand. But the pop this kid got, and he even tweeted out later on, I just pinned one of my idols. Always follow your dreams. Like, I could not imagine what the conversation backstage when Tony Khan, Chris Jericho, and him were standing there and like, okay, this is what's going to happen, and you're gonna pin Chris Jericho.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting. Talking about QT Marshall before. When Action Andretti faced QT Marshall on Dark, this was, I think, back in October of this year.
Yep.
He had a match. He had a spot. Action had a spot where he actually talked before with QT, shot a little bit of a promo in the ring, and then
same thing, kind of put him over a little
had
bit.
The match. QT was like, listen, I don't need you, Aaron. I don't need you, Nick. You guys go to the back. I'm going to do this on my own. This guy should get a fair one-on-one match.
Which is completely out of QT's character.
Well, that's exactly what he gave us, because he didn't cheat. It wasn't a bullshit match, and there was no interferences of any type. QT ended up getting a really clean match.
Yep.
And the clean
got the win.
And Chris Jericho actually watched this match, which is cool that he was watching, dark matches and things like that.
Well, again, we've already had reports of Chris Jericho taking a leadership role, especially with this whole the brawl out thing, and it's good to know that he actually is doing this.
This is for good reason. But at any rate, making a long story even longer, he did see this match between Action and Andretti. Again, if you go on our Twitter, I actually posted the Dark episode on our Twitter with the YouTube link. But he watched it, and it's a great match. And again, QT Marshall knows how to put these guys over, makes them look good. Same thing, he's smacking them, and he's like, action, action. Like, these guys know what the hell they're doing. So, long story short, he picked up the win on Dynamite, and afterwards, Tony Khan gave him a contract. Because you know what? That is a smart thing to do. Get this guy now.
Oh, yeah. So I can't wait to see him in future episodes of Dynamite and Rampage. But I've got to tell you, I tell you what, they're really making AEW Dark become a more relevant idea in the AEW universe. They're putting a lot more of their top talent on AEW Dark and Elevation. I know Matt Hardy and Ethan Page have had a storyline going on, I believe, Dark or Elevation. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's really becoming
Kenny
a thing.
Omega was actually on Dark this week.
They're really trying to push their YouTube series for AEW fans to go there and look, because
they defend titles there a lot too.
Yep.
You know, the ROH Women's Championship.
It's one of those hidden gems that I think people don't. If you're an AEW fan, you would enjoy Raw. You would enjoy Elevation and Dark. And the commentary is just the greatest between
usually
Taz
Daddy
and Excalibur.
Magic.
Yeah, they have Daddy Magic on there, but just Taz and Excalibur have the best back and
Paul
forth.
White there every once in a
there's
while.
no TV executives watching this stuff, so they can go a little bit more off the rails.
Exactly, it's on YouTube, but definitely give it a follow, give it a like. It's really, really good.
So speaking of QT and the Factory, they also had a match against the returning House of Black, personal favorites of ours, Brody King, Malachi Black, and Buddy Murphy with Julia Hart at their side.
So nice to see them back.
They took on Nick Camarado, QT Marshall, and Aaron Solo, and it was a very short match, and I'll tell you what, it made House of Black look real good.
I mean, they do look real good always, but obviously it was nice. They needed their time away. A few of them took some time off. Brody did a couple matches while they were gone. He had that rivalry with Darby Allin while they were gone. But again, nice to see them back, and this was just an opportunity to, unfortunately, squash up the Factory.
Yep, again.
Speaking of QT Marshall.
They're great at doing that. Yep. That is the one thing they're good at.
And they picked up the very quick win. Actually, technically, the bell rang and only Malachi had a move.
Yeah, that is true. They attacked, pretty much everybody attacked everybody. Malachi took a seat in the corner. Nick Camarado got the mist from Julia Hart. Brody King, violence is the answer, and violence was the answer. And Buddy Murphy followed suit. Bell rang. Honest to God, I can't remember the move that Malachi hit.
That high kick that he does.
Was his little finisher. Yeah, and he dropped QT Marshall, got
QT sold it perfectly.
The 1, 2, 3, and that was the end of the segment.
Yep.
Great. I love it.
Love the new theme song brought to us by Colin Young.
Yes, of Hard Lore Podcast.
And God's Hate.
And Dead Body. If you're into spin kick deathcore metal, then check out Dead Body. It's great.
You'll love it.
I just picked up the album the other day. But yeah, great. I mean, House of Black looking super strong coming out here, just absolutely annihilating the Factory. I love to see it. I'm excited to see what they're doing with it. I'm antsy to see what they're doing with it. I'm they've been gone for so long that I'm amped to see them back, and I want to see what they're going to do. But I know how you have to take these things slowly. You can't just we've talked about this. You can't just dump them into the main event without a little bit of build up, because it just feels stale when you do that. And a lot of people, I've even complained about this, that AEW has very short storytelling, and they don't have a lot of long term. So hopefully this turns into something long term. Maybe a trios tag run, maybe just a pure mayhem amongst the entire roster.
I mean, I know we're kind of doing AEW and ROH are going to be eventually kind of splitting up, and they might do some cross promotion on their.
But they're
TV
they're going to
shows
be
and
pretty much one of the same.
Yeah, but here, Tony Khan, if you're listening, here's my idea: House of Black versus the Embassy.
Ooh,
thank you.
That's a lot of man meat being thrown around. Yeah.
Big meaty men. Brian Cage finally getting the love and attention that he absolutely deserves again.
Oh yeah. He was off TV for close to a year.
I
know his wife pitched a stink about it for a little bit, and that was kind of an issue, but good to see him back on TV. ROH getting apparently a weekly internet thing. They're restarting the Honor Club.
Right.
And speaking of Brian Cage, he was also in a match with Jack Perry, Jungle Boy. They're really trying to drop that Jungle Boy moniker off of his name.
I think it's good.
Oh yeah, no, I do too.
He's no longer a Jungle Boy. He's
the Jungle Man, Jack Perry.
Yep.
But they went 1-on-1 and big guy versus tiny guy, and they did this match pretty good. I think, I hate to say it, but I think the magic is worn off of Jungle Boy. Because he ended up pinning Brian Cage after the weirdest. He got him in the snare trap. The referee was distracted by Prince Nana, and then he tapped. Jungle Boy was like, "What the hell?" Because the referee wasn't paying attention. Brian Cage ends up hitting Prince Nana, and then Jungle Boy just rolls up this massive dude of a man, and just pulls him in a schoolboy and pins him for a 1-2-3. And I don't know. Like, wrestling's wrestling, but this one kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
It's a big dude.
He made him tap multiple times.
He made him tap, but then that's what you're going to do. You're going to roll him up with a schoolboy, and you're going to tell me Jungle Boy held down a dude that probably squats 4 times what Jungle Boy weighs. I mean, it was hard for me to believe, and I don't know. It was just stupid. I don't know. It bothered me. I don't know why. Call me an asshole.
Well, it was really silly because then eventually he's like, I took down Brian Cage, his Jungle Boy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I took down Brian Cage, I took down Luchasaurus, so I want the biggest bitch of them all, Big Bill, who was formerly W. Morrissey, formerly Big Cass.
Now he's Big Bill.
Formerly, what was his name?
I don't know.
Cassidy. Whatever.
Yeah. But
Big Bill. So
yeah.
He comes out with Lee Moriarty, duh. They beat up Jungle Boy, duh.
And then the curveball.
Hook.
You hear Action Bronson start singing, and Hook comes down to make the save.
No.
You make and Hook. I guess he's forming an alliance with Jungle Boy. Which, okay,
Hook.
I could really see this going well if you took Jungle Boy and they're trying to get rid of the Jungle Boy aspect. Mm-hmm. You took Jack Perry and you linked him up with Hook, and now Hook's a different type of fighter. He's not a Jungle Boy. He's from the streets of New York and all that, and you start giving a sharper edge to Jack Perry.
Sure.
You get rid of the Jungle Boy, and now he's Jack Perry and Hook, and it's I think you could play off of that and give Jack. I keep wanting to call him Jungle Boy. Give Jack Perry a just a better image, a more updated, a more adult image, so that he's not. Sure. You can get rid of the boy portion of it.
Well, I like that idea, but I also like the idea of possibly making it so Jack Perry does similar moveset
as Hook. Okay.
Almost like Hook's like training him, or like he's taking him under his wing. So now he's got, some like serious submissions, and he's got a little bit more under his belt. So he's
Jack Perry's like a submission guy. He's got the snare trap, but yeah, I think that would be perfect. He's right in that alley.
Have him train under Taz.
Yep, that kind of MMA fighter, powerhouse style.
You could
of
really
wrestling.
take him serious like that.
Oh yeah, and he really does kind of a similar. He does have a little bit more high flying stuff than Hook does, but he does have a very similar ground game as Hook. He has a very similar like close combat, belly to belly style. I'm excited to see if they're actually going to do something with them, or if this is just a one time thing to kind of put both over.
Kind of like Danhausen and Hook.
Right. Which. I don't know what happened to Hookhausen.
Well, that's okay, but it worked for the time being.
Right.
Also on this episode of Dynamite, we had the return of Ruby Soho, whose nose was broken at the All Out pay-per-view pre-show by Ty Mello, and that is who she got her revenge against.
It was Ortiz and her versus Ty Mello and Sammy, and Ty just brought her knee up at just an unfortunate time, and you saw it on TV. You saw her nose get buried. And even Ruby hit the ground, hands on her face. She had to finish the match, which was only a simple pin, but you could tell she was in a lot of pain. Had to have reconstructive surgery, but she's back after 3 months, and obviously it's not affected her too much because she was hitting all of her moves, everything. She looked good. I thought this was a great reintroduction for Ruby Soho back into AEW. I think she's one of the more underutilized of the women's division. Obviously, she's been out with injury for the past 3 months, and I think, if I remember right, she had another injury previously. Nothing serious, but just enough to be out for a couple of weeks. But I would really like to see her utilized a little bit more. I think her promos are a little bit lacking. Not to say that they're bad in any way, shape, or form, but I think she's got, I don't know, just maybe not as much experience in front of the camera with a microphone, and I think that just comes with time. But I really think that she could be a really good top player within the women's division in
sure,
AEW.
Absolutely.
So really excited to see her back.
She did get her revenge though with the win.
Yes, she did. And there was even a couple times they made sure that Ty looked like she had her nose kicked in.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just to run that point home. But another thing with Ty too, I know everybody's hating on Ty and Sammy, but they have become one of those heels that everybody hates, and they are consistent every single time. It's been awesome to see Ty turn into the wrestler that she has been, because we've watched her since they first signed her, and it's always been one of those things where I've always kept an eye on her every time she comes out, and she's really developed a lot in ring on the microphone, and to just be the heel that she is, just like Sammy has been. Like both these, like it's been great. I've really grown to hate both of them, but love that I hate both of them.
Absolutely. Speaking of things that people love to hate, let's talk about Death Triangle versus the Young Bucks on their 4th match.
I absolutely love that people like shit all over the Young Bucks. And I guess Kenny Omega too, but mostly the Young Bucks.
Sure.
I love it. It's great because they act like if they shit on the Young Bucks, then people will be like, oh, well, the Young Bucks suck. But the whole idea is the algorithm's like, oh, they're talking about the Young Bucks, so we're going to promote the Young Bucks because they're talking about the Young Bucks.
Yes.
And it's funny to me because they've understood that since day one, and that's why they walk out there all cocky the way that everybody expects them to be, because they know they're going to get Joe Neckbeard to completely whine for 15 tweets, especially now that Elon's apparently changing everything to, 2,000 characters? Like, my God, the amount of hate that's going to be on the Young Bucks in the next 10 years is going to be amazing, and they're going to be the most relevant tag team of all time because everybody hates them, and I love it. It's great.
And I don't know how you can sit there and watch AEW and be like, oh, I absolutely hate the Elite.
How are you a fan of AEW and you, exactly like you said, that you just despise the Elite? I don't
realize that they are the ones that are in charge of hiring all these people. Like, yeah, Tony Khan is obviously a part of it too, but they're the ones that help bring these people in. They're the ones that help,
of course,
do all of the things that happen behind the scenes.
They might not be the ones that put pen to paper, but you know damn well when Christopher Daniels walks up to the Bucks and he's like, hey, listen, I just heard about Action Andretti. I think he's a really good, indie guy. We should look into him for maybe like bringing him on. Then I'm sure the Young Bucks look at him and they talk to Tony Khan. Like, it's not like we can't, like, is everybody going to pretend like they're not an actual like part of this? Like they're EVPs. Like, of course they're going to have some say in this because it's a product that they are investing their time and money in as a business as well as their hobby. It's just so funny.
It is really funny to me.
This is match 4 of a 7 series that I'm sure will go to 7.
Of course.
Especially after the stipulations added here. Because once again, Death Triangle used the hammer and distractions of the referee to get the 1-up by hitting Nick in the ankle a few times with a hammer and getting the win. Actually, no, they got the tap on
Nick. Nick tapped after Ray hit him with the inverted knee bar.
After they hit him in the ankle with the hammer. And, of course, that doesn't sit well with the Elite.
And as I always say, Kenny Omega must have the last fucking word every time.
Always.
My parents always told me, you have to have the last word. Jesus. Kenny Omega always has to have the last word.
And it always sounds like Kenny's like making up the next thing on the spot. Like 100%. He brings
because this happened, this is going to happen.
And this is going to happen.
And I bid you adieu.
It just, yeah. He's got to get that. But he's also one, not to be that guy, but he is one to know how to market a wrestler. He is one to know
that's his gimmick.
That you got to come up with taglines, you got to come up with T-shirts, you got to come up with gimmicks, you got to come up with things that people say. And he understands in this day and age that anything has a shelf life of about nine weeks before people are like, this is stupid. And he knows you got to come up with new stuff. And I know that's not new, but he's got to get his licks in. He's got to get his catchphrases in, because if he doesn't, those T-shirts don't sell. And those T-shirts don't sell. He's not the top guy. It's Young Bucks, same thing. Death Triangle, same thing. I mean, anybody who's a top T-shirt seller of this T-shirt company, as Triple H calls AEW, like, that's how they make a good portion of their revenue. So, of course, they got to do stuff like that. But, yes, Kenny has to have the last word. And he is the biggest nerd that you used to have in class that finally has a platform and the confidence to say stuff about it. And he sounds like it.
Yep, he was definitely a debate team. There's no doubt about it.
Do you think he was part of the what's the one where they're like each person's a country and they argue? That's debate. That is debate team.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Isn't that it's like world debate or something like?
Kenny Omega was the leader.
He was Japan. Like he has a huge interest. He knows Japanese. He's adopted a lot of the culture. Like
in Japanese, it's
interesting. Not talking shit about the guy, but definitely just he was a Japan nerd back in high school.
Oh no,
he was in the anime club.
Now he's living out his dream.
He was in the anime club with Keith Lee.
Yeah, they started the anime club together.
That's how we got the reference for AEW. Was I know this guy in anime club back in high school.
Actually, we had anime club at our high school, and it was just kids who used to fight with swords. You'd stay after school and like walk past them. You're like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah, anime club was weird here in Florida. You want to talk about some weird anime fans? A bunch of white trash anime fans, and I'm not okay. I might be talking shit about some of the kids that I went to high school with. Like they were interesting. They were like their parents had about 6 teeth, and they had the entire Escaflowne series on DVD that they had imported from Japan.
They were always the nicest damn people, though. You didn't want to go eat dinner at their house?
No, you never wanted to go eat. That was social suicide, and I didn't have a social life as is.
I meant more like you didn't want to go to their house and meet their parents because their parents were like even weirder.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that too. But yeah, Kenny was definitely one of those guys. But at any rate, that's
Kenny
not what we're talking about. Kenny definitely came out and he was like, okay, this is what you guys are going to do with the hammer. You guys are always using the hammer. Then
if that's the case,
fuck y'all. Like we talked about before, the more you fuck around, the more you find out. And Kenny Omega said, then let's do this. Next week on Dynamite, match 5 will be a no disqualification match.
Anything goes. You can bring that little hammer. We'll bring whatever we want.
Yes. If it goes to match 6, it will be a falls count anywhere match.
Guarantee it will go to a match 6.
And of course it's going to go to a match 7 because it will be in California where the Young Bucks are from. A ladder match.
Which with a 3-way tag match, that's going to be
with
nuts.
The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Pac, and
the Lucha Brothers.
The Lucha Bros.
Which the Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks are already famous enough to have that cage match between them.
Yep, which was the match of last year. Let's be honest.
And even when Kenny and Pac went against each other, like good
great
Lord.
Rivalry.
It's been I can't see it not going to 7 matches.
No, like I said, especially being in California.
I love the heat of just people bitching about the same match every week for 7 straight weeks.
I'm excited about it. And not to break down the fourth wall a little bit, but this is AEW renewing their contract with who they
Warner Brothers,
the
TV
and the
deals.
Execs are going to be at that particular Dynamite.
So of course you want the most drawn out, longest, biggest rivalry in AEW right now for one of the newest titles.
Match 7?
Oh yeah,
come on.
Yeah. So you're definitely we're probably gonna see a lot of titles defended on that Dynamite.
Just to throw it out, just to see, we can always pull this up later, but curiosity, who do you think's got that? If it goes to match 7, or maybe honestly, you don't think it will go to match 7.
I honestly think it's going to go to match 7, and I think it's going to go to the Young Bucks, or I think it's going to go to the Elite.
Okay,
I can't see it going any other way. You think the opposite?
Yes, I disagree.
It's going to be fun to watch then.
I feel like the Elite can take the loss.
Oh, of course they can.
But I feel like Death Triangle need the win. But I'm also not going to lie, I'm a little conflicted because Ray's obviously being panned out to be the good guy. Pac and Penta are panned out to be the bad guys here.
Yep.
So I don't know if they're not going to be able to hash out their
Ray's
shit.
Been a little bit better. Ray's been a little bit better about it though. Match 4, he was the one that hit Matt with the hammer. He's been all about it. Granted, he had some resistance to it, but it seems like he's moving over to the darker side.
Mm-hmm. That was Nick, by the way, that got hit by the hammer.
I'm sorry. You're right. But at the same time, I'm in the camp of believing that that's going to be their downfall. That's going to be match 7. It's a ladder match, and Ray's going to finally have that coming of sense of, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be the good guy. He's always been sold as the good guy, even between him and Penta when they have the rivalry between each other. I just think that's how it's going to go. Ray's going to be the hesitant one. Ray's going to be the one that doesn't want to hit somebody with the thing, or Ray's going to be the one that stops Penta. I think he's going to conflict with Penta, and they're going to reignite that confrontation between
okay with that.
Penta and Ray.
Also,
or Ray's going to break off and Penta and Pac are going to be a tag team.
Or what if it was a 3-way match? We're going to end this with Pac versus Penta versus Ray.
I could see
at
that.
Revolution.
I could see that. That could be good.
No DQ. Something like that.
You'd have to.
Those guys are just so hard hitting. But I think this, regardless of the outcome of this match, I think a lot's going to stem storyline from both parties, both trios.
I'm excited to see where the trios goes after this too.
Oh yeah, because you can't just keep having these guys be the same ones over and over. You got to bring in, House
of Black.
House of Black, exactly.
You've got the Firm, who's got a myriad of different individuals.
Lee, they got Big Bill.
Yep.
They got Ethan Page.
Yep. You even got Private Party and Matt Hardy, who they're under that
so good.
The Firm moniker right now.
Yep.
But even outside of that, I could see them doing a run for the triple tag teams.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, maybe Jeff Hardy will be coming back. I know he's got a hearing pretty soon for his court case. Hopefully that gets cleared up for him. But there's a lot of potential out there. You now have
Best Friends.
You now have Preston Vance.
Yep.
Who is now with Roosh and Dragolisto and Butcher and the Blade.
When's Jose gonna come out and fight?
The assistant?
For real.
He's jacked. Have you ever seen him with his shirt off?
You've never seen him with his shirt off.
I'd sleep with Jose.
He works out with like Brian Cage and Roosh, and they're huge.
Oh yeah. But yeah, really excited to see what they're going to do with this trios tag, because unfortunately it's been kind of stale since the brawl out and everything they had to do. And I mean, they had a little bit here and there, but it had to get a lot of steam back. So excited to see where they go with that.
The final match for Dynamite had Ricky Starks taking on MJF for not only the AEW World Championship belt, but the Dynamite Diamond Ring as well.
Right, and Ricky Starks was the winner of the Casino Battle Royale for the chance for the Diamond Ring.
Right.
As well as the, what tournament was it? He wrestled the tournament with everybody in it. I can't remember what they called it. But he ended up winning that too. So he had a double shot both at the Diamond Ring and the championship. And man, the promo he hit the week prior, we didn't get to talk about it, but good God, if you didn't see that between him and MJF, both of them,
both
MJF set the building on fire, and you would have thought that Ricky Starks would have stumbled a little bit. He came in with napalm and just torched anything that didn't have MJF's touch on it. It was one of the best the promos between the two of them.
It really was. But before the match happened, I just want to take a note and point out that Paul Turner had a great moment before the actual match happened. And traditionally the ref takes the belt, holds it up,
right,
signifies that this is a title match. Not only did he hold up the AEW World Championship belt, he had the ring on.
Yeah.
And it was hard.
In a power stance, put it on his index finger and had like the fist out.
It was good.
Great presentation.
Paul Turner, you're the man.
He also had, you gotta call him out. MJF at one point had Ricky Starks in I can't even remember what kind of hold it was, but he was standing, and to get more leverage, he reached out and grabbed the rope and was, wrenching on Ricky, and Paul Turner saw it. Instead of like just calling him out on it, Paul Turner just kicked him right in the arm. And I just kicked him and just kept going. And it was just,
he shrugged and he was like, and he kind of pointed off to the side, like, illegal move. So
it was so good.
Paul Turner is the absolute man. It was a really good match.
It was a really good match.
MJF did a great job of just taking over Ricky as far as like his arm. I think it was his left arm. Ricky was having some trouble with that, and MJF just did everything that he absolutely could to just hit that same spot over and over and over again.
I love MJF. His confidence outside of the ring and on the mic is amazing. And then when he gets in the ring, he translates into a wrestler that is just doing everything he can to get the win. Like whenever he doesn't get the 2, he's so distraught. Whenever he gets reversed, he is just the most miserable. When he gets hit, he is in the most amount of pain, and it's so...
I mean, not to be that guy, are you talking about Ricky or are you talking about MJF?
You know what I mean? But that's what he turns into...
Both of them.
When he's on the mic, he feels like he's an untouchable human being. Like, he is a god. Like, even in the ring, it just by him on the mic, it feels like he would be untouchable. But then when he gets in the ring, he puts the trunks on, he turns into exactly what he is he's just another wrestler. And I'm not taking anything away from MJF,
right.
but he acts like another wrestler, like a Ricky Starks, like a Jack Perry, like a Britt Baker, like a Darby Allin. He's just another wrestler in the ring getting hit. And then when he wins, and how he wins in this one, where he hits the low blow on Ricky Starks and gets the pin, it just looks so good because he in its snap, he goes from that regular wrestler to MJF.
Right.
The overconfident, does everything the wrong way, but gets the win.
Right.
MJF.
Knows how to distract the ref so that he can get the low blow.
The opportune times he knows the ref, he slipped a little bit, so he catches that out of the corner of his eye and kicks him in the nuts.
Right.
Whatever the case is, it goes from one level to another level, back to another level. And Ricky, oh my God, the entire match Ricky had, it was probably 70-30 Ricky MJF, and this entire match was a wonderful showcase between the two guys of what they can do in the ring.
Definitely.
Between two good wrestlers.
And I'm not a huge fan of the spear. I think it's kind of a lame move in my personal opinion. I don't really
Especially
like when Roman does it.
Especially a smaller guy.
Something about Ricky's spear has just got so much he, like you said, he's just trying so hard to hit that move perfectly and really give everything that he can. MJF just utilizes that and sells it so well. And these two are just, they tell such a great tale. And I hope this is not the end of MJF and Ricky Starks, that this is only just the beginning with these two during this rivalry with this title run. So MJF does not only retain the AEW World Championship, but is also the 4th time in a row winner of the Dynamite Diamond Ring. The only winner of the Dynamite Diamond Ring.
Yep, he's had it the entire time. It looks good on him. So it's just adding to that prestige. So whenever somebody takes him and breaks that streak, it's going to be glorious.
Well, it's interesting you say that because MJF has been making a lot of comments using terms that Bryan Danielson uses, like the word fickle. That's something that Bryan is just notorious for saying, that they're real fickle or whatever he says.
Right.
And MJF has been saying that a lot. So interesting that after MJF picks up the win, that Bryan Danielson actually comes out to the ring, goes to walk up to the ramp, and MJF just runs off into the crowd.
Runs like a coward with his tail between his legs, runs into the crowd, goes up to the top, sports his brand new BBB belt. And Bryan Danielson, celebrates a little bit with Ricky, and that's how we end up closing Dynamite. So hopefully we'll see something with Bryan Danielson and MJF later on. That'll be good.
Be a long burn on that one. But
that'll be a good match between those two when they do end up getting in it. I mean, MJF hasn't had that many matches in AEW to begin with.
No.
So there's so much potential for him being at the top of his game right now, especially with the championship. So much good potential with MJF.
It's been a lot of fun since he's had the belt, but he successfully defended it the first time. So
right, probably a first defense of probably many.
I hope so. Let's talk about AEW Rampage. We had Wardlow, former TNT champion, versus Exodus Prime, random jobber. For
you can't give him the credit.
Well, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think he's even fought there before. I think that was actually his AEW.
You can actually watch
premiere.
The match is so short. You can actually watch the entire match on AEW's YouTube. The entire segment
clip
is 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and that's including the match and what happens after. So the match isn't that big of a thing. He ends up headbutting him. He destroys him. Powerbomb Symphony, pins him for the 1-2-3 real easy. Ends up calling out Samoa Joe, who took his title and humiliated him a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Joe comes on and cuts one of the nastiest promos that he's cut since being at AEW, calling himself the king of television. How dare you basically address the king this way? The king has spoken. I'm liking the heel gimmick he's
I like
going
it a
with.
lot. He's really good as a heel. But he said,
he thrives as a heel, 100%.
He does. He always has. But he basically said, I'm not fighting you in Texas. This place is trash. I won't fight you next week.
Classic heel gimmick.
He said, I'll give you clemency and let you have Christmas off. And then I think he said December 28th. Yes, the Dynamite after Christmas.
Yes.
That they will be fighting for the TNT championship.
Yeah.
And he also is the ROH television champion as well. So
hence
Samoa
the king of
Joe
television
is really getting a lot of love in AEW, and it's really nice to see and well deserved.
So do you think, is he going to drop the title?
No.
I don't think so either. I think Wardlow's going to end up taking the loss, which I'm sure he can.
Yep.
And
not really sure where Wardlow's going from here.
No, but I'm really liking where they're going with Joe with this King of Television and
love it
the
too.
royal like snobbiness he's got.
Yeah.
I love it. His intensity is out of here. Like
of
my God, he's that promo, goosebumps.
Yeah,
such a good promo.
I really enjoyed it as well. Now, if they start this ROH program, for him to have an AEW belt and an ROH belt is a little bit of a sticky situation, I suppose. So they might defend one of the titles on opposite promotion just to get, the heat going.
Do you think they're going to send him to ROH?
I think it would be a really smart move too.
Right.
He
a veteran of ROH, somebody who's
a phenomenal career in ROH. Same like Jay Lethal. I don't think it's a bad thing, and I don't think it's bad for their career to take both of them back, bring them back to where their roots started, and have Samoa Joe be the television champion is a great opportunity for him.
Right.
Having Claudio be the world champion of ROH, I think is great. I don't think that's a down step.
Yep.
I think that's a phenomenal step in the right direction for ROH and both of their careers. So, yeah,
it'll be interesting it'll be interesting to see how much the AEW roster mix in with the ROH roster, if they're going to separate the two, if they're going to be one and the same. I don't think they're going to be one and the same, but they have a lot of ROH alumni in AEW. I mean, ROH alumni.
Yes.
As you've slowly learned, I know you've known very little about ROH up until recently. But there's been same thing with me. You see how much ROH has trained so many current, past, and even future wrestlers of the industry right now.
Even AEW themselves.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at the amount of talent that AEW has right now that has had any type of ROH experience.
Well, I mean, even WWE.
Ton.
Pete Dunne was one that was in ROH. You've got, Claudio was in ROH forever. CM Punk was Bryan Danielson.
Right.
They were all in
list
ROH.
Goes on and
they,
on and on and on.
You can't argue they had huge careers in WWE. Now they're on to AEW.
Right.
You've got, it's everywhere. I mean, even Brody King was from ROH. Danhausen, ROH.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
PCO is over in Impact. You've got Maria Kanellis and Mike Kanellis and I can't
Kingdom,
remember, the Kingdom. They were in ROH. It's just their ROH's fingerprints are everywhere. So it's going to be interesting to see what Tony Khan does with the AEW roster and ROH and who he puts on, where and how.
Now, if you look at ROH's website, they do have a roster, and the only people that are on the roster are the current champions.
Right.
So they are saying that Athena is signed to ROH.
Okay.
If you understand it in that perspective, and not to give too much away from the pay-per-view, but Athena won the championship, so now they're saying that she's ROH. So those people that all won are ROH people. Brian Cage, Khan, Toa.
Yep.
Toa Leoa. All those people are ROH dudes now, and I think that's great.
Of course, the Briscoes are ROH guys. Yeah. They've always been ROH
What's
guys.
What's cool is you can do some cross-promotion with AEW, ROH, but there's the forbidden door is open. So
and Tony
you never
Khan
know
is already...
what NJPW guy you're going to see. And you got to think about that too. Tomohiro Ishii had a huge career in ROH.
Right.
So you can bring NJPW people into ROH.
And Tony Khan's already confirmed that he's already in talks for the second forbidden door.
Yep.
Which, my God, if it was anything like the last one, please shut up and take my money.
Oh,
my God.
Such a great pay-per-view. But yeah, defend some ROH championships at Forbidden Door.
Oh, yeah.
Do some cross-promotion.
Forbidden Door.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, one match that ended up stemming from a call-out on Dynamite, believe it or not, and this is a great thing I think that AEW is doing, we've got Britt Baker on Rampage this week, and she was called out by Sky Blue on Dynamite.
Right, and it's great to see Sky Blue on TV.
Sure.
She's another one that we've watched, from Dark and Elevation.
She gets better and better and better every week. She's been training hard. She looks great. How can you not look at her and just absolutely love her?
Oh, yeah. And now, granted,
she's just lovable.
When she called out Britt Baker, it definitely felt like it was cookie cutter. She practiced that 100 times right before she walked out on camera. because it was one of those things where she walks out and it was bop, ba-da, bop, ba-da, bop, ba-da, and then she walked off camera. And it was just, it just felt very green, which I can't blame her because she hasn't had a lot of on-camera mic time. But it's great to see her back or be on TV. It's great to see her go up against somebody like Britt Baker, not just another AEW Dark Elevation member or a local talent and
a random
get a win
2-on-2
or a random 2-on-2 where she ends up losing. I mean, she ended up losing this match. Obviously, she's still the up and coming, but she looked really strong in this match.
She did.
Britt was really, really put her over, let her get a lot of moves in. It was, obviously Britt gets the win in the end, which then it also brings Hikaru Shida out who's
right, because Jamie Hayter was out.
And they started attacking Sky Blue.
Oh my God, Hikaru Shida rocked Britt Baker.
Oh yeah, it looked like she wasn't ready for that. she missed on that first whiff with the kendo stick and then just like whipped it back faster than I think Britt was ready for and caught her right across the arm and chest. But Sky Blue looked great.
She did. And we are getting to see that Jamie Hayter, Hikaru Shida match on Dynamite for the AEW World Champion.
Which is going to be awesome. I mean, Hikaru Shida...
Women's World Champion.
I think she was the second champion.
Yeah, but AEW Women's Champion.
But she's also she's had the longest reign with the belt. So she always puts on a great performance when she's on.
Absolutely grown to love Hikaru Shida.
There's no way she's dropping the title. I can't see
Jamie Hayter. This is her first defense.
I can't see in any world they would.
No, that would make Jamie Hayter look really bad.
Yeah.
And Jamie Hayter had a really good promo, I think, with Tony Schiavone that they did on Dynamite. I think it was last week.
I think so, where she was like kind of talking shit, how you're talking to everybody but me. I'm the champion.
I think she did a really good job there. And that was when she said that whoever won the match between Hikaru Shida and Bunny got the opportunity to face Jamie Hayter if they dare. So that is going to be happening.
She's
and
so
I think
over
that's
right now. It's unreal.
And I think Hikaru Shida is just going to push that even more to push her over.
Oh, yeah. But it's so good because
there's a reason she's the champion.
She's so legitimately over. Like, it's not even a forced over. It just naturally happened.
Great.
She went from everybody was like, "Who's this?" to, "Oh my God, I love Jamie Hayter." Yep. And it was like overnight. I think it honestly was when her and Britt Baker had that fake feud between the two of them, and people really rallied behind her because they felt like, yeah, you're like second chick on the squad, even to Rebel, like, you're not anything. And then when that happened, and granted they didn't fight, but I think it legitimized her toughness to where she's like, I'm not afraid to buck up to people like Britt Baker,
and it made you kind of pick a side. Yeah. Because you were at that perspective where you're like, okay, if these two do fight, like, whose side am I on?
Right.
And a lot of people were like, shit, I'm on Jamie's side, and I didn't realize it.
I still hope they do that between the two of them.
I think it would be fun, long burn, because who doesn't want to see that? Or slow burn, I'm so sorry. But who doesn't want to see that match? Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker.
It'd be a great match.
You got to keep thinking about the pay-per-view coming up in March.
Well, especially with the championship involved. I mean, Britt Baker's on her side it's her time, but at the same time, it's the championship. You can only root on your best friend in the number one position in the same business you are until it's your turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had also the best friends, Orange Cassidy, Dustin Rhodes taking on Kip Sabian, Trent Seven, Butcher, and The Blade in 4-on-4 action. This was definitely just because they were in Texas, an opportunity for them to put Dustin Rhodes in a match and get some hometown love. Obviously, you got 4 heels, 4 faces. Orange Cassidy's always a fan favorite. Best friends are always the greatest fillers to put in a giant tag team like this.
Yep, Danhausen was out there, so it's just everybody that just knows how to rev up a crowd. And of course, Dustin Rhodes still knows how to put on a great performance. He did a great Canadian Destroyer. Can't remember who on
it was a Dallas Destroyer, as Excalibur said.
Excuse me.
And you also had a segment with Penelope Ford and Bunny. I don't remember who. I think it was Bunny was in the ring when she was being distracting. Yep. Orange Cassidy, I think she ended up low blowing him. He dropped to the ground and behind the ref's back. And Danhausen jumped in the ring and went to curse Bunny and
Penelope.
It was Penelope. But then he looked around and realized, opportunity, and just dropped to the ground and started writhing in pain. Remsburg turned around and looked at the Bunny, looked at Penelope Ford, and of course did what is like the most common thing right now with
I love it.
Throwing
You're
people out.
Here.
You're both out of here. They got thrown out. It was a great spot. The match was really good, really high energy. Trent Seven, he debuted last week against not Chris Jericho.
It was Orange Cassidy.
Orange Cassidy, thank you for the title.
Yep.
Kip Sabian and Orange Cassidy obviously gearing up for having a title match between the two of them.
Kip looked great here. He had like some almost like Jack Skellington looking pants on, but
he's got that dark, creepy kind of style
him.
too. So he always has stuff like that. But yeah, great match.
And best friends Orange Cassidy and Dustin Rhodes ended up getting the win. Actually, Dustin Rhodes got the pin. So
yeah, he hit him with great. Hit him with the Dallas Destroyer, like you said. Orange hit the orange punch, and then he finished it off with the Bulldog for the pin.
Yep. And the match of the night, although it was not the actual headliner, the match we just talked about was actually the headliner.
This is the opening match, if I remember. This
was the opening match. John Moxley took on Sammy Guevara. Again, this stemmed, I believe, from last week. John Moxley called out Sammy.
On top of calling out Hangman Adam Page.
Yes,
he
did,
time.
which he comes out later anyways. But they had this
Spoilers.
match, and I don't know what happened here. If John looked at Sammy and was like,
okay,
let's just do some crazy shit, rip my earring out.
Okay, so Rampage has been pre-recorded for I think the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You and I try to stay away from spoilers as best we can.
Of course.
We try to watch everything, as you're supposed to digest it. But you can't help from hearing things. It's Twitter. Like once it gets on Twitter, it's like a virus. It spreads. So you looked at me and said, "Oh my God." On Rampage tonight, apparently John Moxley damn near loses his ear. Now, when you say that to me, I'm thinking, I flash back to Mick Foley getting his head caught in the ropes and tearing his ear almost clean off.
It was Renee that said it. You got to watch Rampage so you can see John's ear hang on by a thread.
And like I said, to me, that's like your ear gets ripped off.
Right.
So the entire time, and I'm not good with surgical stuff and like real life injuries. Like I have something that makes me queasy. I don't know why. I don't have a weak stomach. You put me in a horror movie where people's got their heads ripped in half. I've got no problem whatsoever.
The fake gore doesn't get
the fake gore doesn't get me. The real medical, like
he could never watch Grey's Anatomy with me.
No. So I'm expecting to see this man with his ear hanging by a thread.
Right.
So the entire match, I'm cringing the entire time, just waiting because.
Is this going to happen now?
Right. And we heard it was like a botched bite from Sammy. Well, there's like 3 times in this match that Sammy puts his mouth on Moxley's ear.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the times is he literally rips the earring from Mox's ear.
Yep.
Like
and this
right
is
out
during
of his
the commercial break.
Yeah. So
picture in picture.
And so the entire time I'm cringing, but the amount of blood that poured out, and that's all it was. He ended up ripping his earlobe, ripped his earring through his earlobe.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would agree to do that, but whatever. It's John Moxley. Who gives a shit? It was great.
Sammy put the earring in his mouth. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Pouring blood. He ended up putting the earring in his mouth. There was a little chunk of skin on it.
Gross.
He went over to Ty and he had blood on his hand, and they ended up smooching with blood all over the mouth.
He threw the earring into the crowd.
It's a little bit much. I won't lie. It's a little bit much for me. I'm not going to complain about it because I also enjoy the goofiest of wrestling. So this is for somebody out there. This is either for somebody to hate or for somebody to love, and I can see why somebody would hate the living hell out of this. But it was gross. Like it was gross. But the match was good. His ear wasn't hanging off by a thread. The only complaint I have about this match was the ending. Sammy got put in a submission at the rear bulldog choke and ended up passing out. And I just feel like AEW has been using this match ending way too much.
He didn't tap. He passed out. Like,
anybody
come on, we can't do that for everybody.
Anybody that fights Bryan Danielson or John Moxley has passed out. I don't remember the last time either one of them got a pin in a one-on-one match. And I don't like that. I don't like that's. I don't know.
I agree.
It's too played out. I think just a simple pin, maybe do it every once in a while with a real hard fought fight between two individuals. Not that this wasn't one of them, but it didn't feel like it was
over exaggerated, like passing out too.
Right. It felt like Sammy is a heel enough to where he could tap out or get pinned and not feel the repercussions of it. Other than that, match was great.
It was a great way to start off the night.
And then as soon as the match was over, Mox grabs the microphone and turns to the entrance and says, I called you out last week. I'm here. Where the hell are you, Hangman? And he throws the mic, and Hangman Adam Page comes out. Evil Uno's trying to stop him because he's still technically medical cleared.
Right.
And a fight ensues between the two of them, and that's how we go off the air, is those two are fighting each other like it happened the week prior. So we're obviously building up more animosity between the two of them.
Yeah, because we never got to see the end of this match.
Oh, I mean, it ended all right, but not the way that I don't think either one of them wanted to.
No.
I'm enjoying it. I know that a certain former wrestler can't understand why somebody's mad at somebody else in wrestling, but I feel like you've got to be half a moron to even consider that. And
I mean, whether it was a legitimate move or not, he got a concussion.
And he got taken out.
Concussion.
Yeah, he got taken out of.
It's okay to be upset about that.
Of course,
it's okay to want revenge.
Even if you don't want that, you lost.
But again, we never got to see the end of the match, so I mean,
right.
It's okay to rebuild that fire just so we can see the end of it.
Oh yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's wrestling. For sometimes even if the rivalries don't make sense all the time.
They don't have
it's
to.
It's wrestling, for the love of God. It's all made up and make believe. And
are you enjoying it? And if you're not, maybe look at it from a different perspective.
Right?
Because I hate to be that guy. I love AEW, but it's a really good program if you just open up your mind to it.
But so is WWE.
It really is.
And it's not for everybody.
There's
just
good
like
and
AEW
bad in both.
And I hate when people are like, oh, well, AEW is trash. No, AEW is not trash.
No.
AEW is just not for you. If you don't like AEW, don't fucking watch AEW.
Or you're not invested in the AEW wrestlers.
Right,
and let me be the first to say, it took me a long time to get into AEW.
Yep.
There were a lot of wrestlers here that I did not know about, did not understand, thought they were pretty lame, if you asked me.
But honestly,
I've grown to love all of those people.
Because we fell out of wrestling for a good couple of years.
We did.
When we got back into WWE, tell me it wasn't the same way. We had to kind of get used to Riddle. We had to get used to, the Street Profits. We had to get used to Chad Gable and Otis. We had to get used to the Bloodline. Like, you have to. It's a learning experience. It's like jumping into the middle of a season of a show. You don't know anything.
You got to give it some time to grow on you. You got to give it some time to start to love these characters and love who these people are. And I feel bad almost for Jon Moxley. Like, he's this type of guy that you either love Jon Moxley or you hate Jon Moxley. There's no I like Jon Moxley. Either love or hate him. And I think a lot of people hate him because, he bleeds every match. Okay, that's just a characteristic and his persona.
Yep.
That is Jon Moxley. He does bleed a lot.
You don't have to be, and you don't have to be a fan of that.
No, you don't have to be a fan of that at all. But do understand that this guy is definitely making this a more interesting story.
Oh yeah. Without him, the story, some of the stories on AEW would be just bland.
Yep. So what's going to be happening next week on AEW?
Well, next week we have obviously the 5th match between Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, the Elite, and Death Triangle.
And that's a Falls Count Anywhere? Or no, it's no
that'll
DQ.
Be a no
I'm
DQ.
So sorry.
This will be the 5th match, and if Death Triangle ends up getting the win, then this will be the end of it. But if the Elite wins, then it will go to 2-3, and they will go to match 6, which will then be the Falls Count Anywhere. And then if that one goes to a 3-3, then we will go to Game 7, which anybody who watches hockey, which I feel like Kenny Omega is the one that was like, well, what if we did best of 7?
Yes,
because he's Canadian, and he's actually I know we've talked about it, but he's actually a very good hockey player.
Oh yes,
I have read quite a few things about him that he's a very skilled hockey player.
And a little bit of shinfo if you didn't know this. So is Steve Carell. Dude is phenomenal on the ice.
I've heard that. Actually, there's a movie he's in that he has to be on the ice.
Well, it is, if I'm not mistaken, it was the fake movie that they shoot in the office.
That's right.
And in the movie, he has to shoot some, pucks into the net.
And it's all legitimately him.
And it, if you watch the footwork, you would believe that it was an actor, but it actually is really Steve Carell. Little shinfo. Because why not? So anyways, what's going to be happening?
Yeah, we have the best of 7 series, Game 5.
Okay.
Game 5, Match 5. We also have FTR will be taking on the Gun Club.
Ass Boys.
They came out at the end of an absolute mind-blowing match between the Briscoes and FTR, where FTR ended up losing the ROH tag titles right after they ended up losing a match for the AEW tag titles.
Yeah, which they didn't have, but they did lose the match.
They did lose the match, but they ended up losing the belts to the Briscoes. So the Briscoes are now the 13-time ROH champions. So congratulations to them. But while down and hurt and bleeding, the Ass Boys came out, pretty much said, "You guys suck. We're going to destroy your legacy." So Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler have challenged them to a match. So on Wednesday, we will see FTR take on the Ass Boys in a grudge match.
Which is kind of funny that it's against the Ass Boys because Dax broke his.
Yeah, he broke his ass. He did break his ass. And
go on his Twitter. There's a picture.
Yeah, his ass is all kinds of black and blue. I don't know how he's going to perform in this match, but
Dax.
It'll be interesting. What did I say?
I'm just saying. How is he going to perform? It's Dax.
Yeah, right.
He always
Dax.
performs.
But we'll have that match. We'll also, as we brought up before, we'll have Jamie Hayter taking on Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. Also, though it's not AEW directly, we do have some AEW wrestlers on NJPW's Wrestle Kingdom 17, which will be on January 4th, as well as January, I believe, 21st. They're two separate dates. It's NJPW's biggest pay-per-view that they have every year. We will be seeing FTR taking on Haruki Goto and Yoshihashi. God, I'm surprised I was able to pull that off. As well as Kenny Omega will be fighting Will Ospreay for the IWGP United States Championship. And
it's crazy. We're finally getting this rivalry to come to a head at this match, and it's not even going to be in AEW.
I know. But it can't be. This rivalry was never, it hardly even graced AEW. That one time that they were in for a couple weeks, but this is all NJPW. Kenny Omega left NJPW and left it to Will Ospreay, and it has been this recurring thing. They talk shit on each other every time they're on Twitter. Will Ospreay Will Ospreay has hit the one-winged angel on an indie wrestler and then forced the kick out. So he said, this kid kicked out of the one-winged angel. They've had T-shirts with Kenny Omega that Will Ospreay has made that Kenny Omega has put a cease and desist on, that there was only like a 2-day window you could get those. So I'm sure those are like valuable as hell right now. But it's been, whether it's real, whether it's fake, this rivalry between the two of them has been awesome. And it's going to finally come to a head for a belt at Wrestle Kingdom 17 in Japan, in Tokyo, Japan. It's going to be awesome.
Ooh.
It's going to be so good.
Can't wait. All right. And I think that will pretty much wrap up the night.
That'll be it for AEW. We will be covering WWE, SmackDown, and Raw, doing a little bit different.
Yep, that should be coming out Wednesday.
We're now going to split the shows up between an AEW show and a WWE show.
And please, if you don't like that, tell us.
Of course.
Go on Twitter at CAW Wrestling Pod. Let us know.
Do you like it like this? Do you like it like how we did before?
Do you want us to do the shows together? Do you want us to do two separate podcasts? We're going to try out AEW being one podcast that comes out probably either Sunday or Monday. And then WWE will be coming out hopefully on Wednesday morning. And we're just going to try it like that for a little bit. So thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you very much. Tell all your friends about us. Do us a really big favor. If you're a fan, you listen to us on Spotify, go on there and give us a 5-star rating. We'd really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for listening.
Apple Podcasts as well. Make sure you go on and give us a 5-star review. Say some nice things about us. We'd really appreciate it. If we see them, we'll make sure we shout you out 100%. We appreciate the support we get from everybody. So any of these podcast apps that you use, your preferred one, go on there and rate us. It really helps us getting the word out for us, spread us out and get the word out and just make this into a better podcast.
Yep. More the merrier. And
definitely.
Make sure you watch Raw with us tomorrow. I am Jamie, and I am at A Bacon Party on Twitter.
I am Mark, and I'm at Gunk Dudley. You can also catch us at CAW Wrestling Pod across all social media, or go to coffeeandwrestling.com to visit our link tree to find all of our links there. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcast. If you listen to our iHeartRadio, I don't know why you would, but we're on there.
Yeah, play us in your mom's car so, she can tell her soccer mom friends about it.
And if you're a fan and you go to, for some reason you find yourself in an Apple store, go in there and just rate us on everything, on every device on there. It's one device. We get a rate for every device, and anything you can get your hands on. Get your moms, get your sisters, get your dads, your uncles,
your children.
Just give us a 5-star rating. Who knows? We might send you a sticker pack, maybe a T-shirt when we get printed,
or a coffee mug.
Coffee mug. But thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it, and we will catch you on the next episode.